Hi everyone, we are in Innovation in IT podcast number 4, which is called Let's Talk About Books. So my name is Tomislav and let's say I'm expert on innovation topics, and with me is Blaž expert in many IT topics. Blaž, could you explain this?
Hi. I presume this is because I'm working with IT for the last 35 years or so.
Yeah.
But I'm currently 18 years, just past 18 years of employment from different big multinational companies. And I've started also as a junior and basically came up the ladder to some kind of a lead position in research and development departments.
Yeah, great. So we can talk about some books today that shaped you. So what first comes to your mind? Which technology or business books shaped you and why?
First, it's deeply technical. So, basically the reason and why I do this, what I do, at the level that I do it. So it was Applied C by Lee Atkinson and Mark Atkinson, and this goes way back, maybe even, in the previous century. So when basically there was no internet, and the only way how you could really learn new languages was either to go into faculty, but I was way too young then. So I got this book. I actually borrowed it, and the way you did it was that you go through each and every line of the book and start and write everything and play with it, and then you were learning. The other one is Demystified C++, I think by Jeff Kent, which was the introduction in the C++ world, and this was some would say simplification of the matter, but some would also say not. But for me it was an introduction also to the object-oriented development world, programming, and those were the books that shaped me. So what they taught me was, memory allocation, thinking about stuff. We had to do things really optimized, really go into the algorithm side of the story and try to optimize everything that we did, and of course bug hunting, and because I think that was a really good thing for us seniors in years, because unlike today's colleagues, potentially the new let's say younger colleagues, they have internet, so they can learn a broader set of topics. But I think we had it a little bit different, and we had to do much more ourselves than everything's on the plate at the moment. So you can pretty much learn anything. But I don't know, this shaped me. From the business side, so lately it was product management books, and one example that I'd like to point out was Product Management in Practice by Matt LeMay, which really interested me because I'm kind of aiming or currently or even working in this role, and it was nice to see other experiences and how this fits in the overall product build and research and development world, where it is not really that simple. Let's say especially in these kinds of really multinational companies where we have international teams and really tight schedules and deadlines and so on. So it's a good book to read.
Okay, we work together, I don't know, for 10-15 years, so I also know how it's going. So concerning the technology books, you mentioned some C++ books. I didn't dug deep into these books. The only books that I read about C++ was C++ for Dummies. And I had hard copy, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe, and that was it. And then I switched to other languages, let's say. Concerning the business books, first book that comes to my mind is The Art of Innovation by Tom Kelly of IDEO. So the IDEO, let's say, was the forefathers of design method, design thinking, let's say. And in this book, The Art of Innovation are let's say, the first building blocks of this design thinking method. So this book is really the first one which should be read by someone who wants to learn something about innovation. Also for business process, I should say The Startup Way and Lean Startup by Eric Ries. So he really pushed things a little bit further concerning how to think in a startup way also in big companies. So the big company can be transformed in a way to think different and to defend itself in a way when it has to fight with startups, of course.
Yeah.
Also one book is Sprint by Knapp, Zeratsky and Kowitz. So they developed the design sprint method, which is pretty new. I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago it was written. So it was developed by one team in Google, and later they also I think go out of the company and made their own company and spread this method all over the world. Okay, enough about business books. Blaž, could you tell me about science fiction books? This is more interesting, I should say.
Yeah. Well, which shaped me, if I would recollect. Well, basically, I would say, okay, it not necessarily it has to be books, but I've read a lot of also comics related, let's say science fiction based comics from some French authors and I think Belgian and so on, and which were coming in the old republic in Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
I think it was called Stripoteka.
Yes.
They were pretty much doing just the reprints of international things. Maybe also there were some Yugoslavian authors that were printed, but mostly it was from the outside. But they did, of course, the translations. So there, I think that was the first kick of the SF story, and later, I think during high school, I think it was the first time I actually had something outside of let's say what was parts of the lectures in the school, and it was by Arthur C. Clarke. It was Rama, and later, of course, it's a series. So I pretty much, when I started with this one, I continued, and I think Arthur C. Clarke is, I think I read the most of a single author. I think that's the most covered author by me. Then I would also mention Frank Herbert Dune, which was interesting. And yeah, lately I switched. So at the time I was reading in let's say our Croatian language, so only the transcriptions or the translations, and so from something like 10 years ago I started reading in the native language all of these things. So I was rereading a lot of them, also Rama and also Dune and also everything else. And lately I'm really in the Expanse world, so I'll be probably also saying about that.
Yeah.
And that would be, I mean, that is what was shaping me, at least this. So Dune and Rama, they opened up, let's say, the horizons for me.
Okay, concerning me, I had this period in life when I was reading science fiction books one after another. It was in high school. It was also later in faculty. So in that time, I had many magazines, like it was serious from I don't know how many years ago. It was from my father, and I inherited it, and there was so many SF short stories inside, many from Arthur Clarke or Isaac Asimov. So this was the first thing that shaped me, and later I had the great book by Isaac Asimov, the Empire novels. So this was great, and also I liked fantasy books from Tolkien and Terry Pratchett. So Terry Pratchett is let's say a bit funny books. So Discworld series and so on. Also, I must mention Ender's Game. This was the best book I had in that period. That was a terrible movie later, but the book was great. And now, when we are talking about TV shows and movies, so Blaž, what shaped you with TV shows and movies? Let's say.
Well, of course, firstly, Star Trek, the original series.
Yes.
And I remember also going to watch Star Wars back in the 80s, I think, when I was just a small kid and my brother took me. And it was, from today's perspective, it's really bad graphics, but also I would point out probably it's something that was, at least for many of the kids in those days, really say kind of raising up the imagination levels where you had to fill the gaps, right? And but it was really cool. I don't know, in general. So from what I remember now lately, the Expanse series, for example, that's also something that I'm lately watching. I would also point out Matrix, which was cool. The first three ones, I've heard about. The fourth, didn't yet see it. I plan to see it in a couple of days. And Total Recall, and you can maybe, connect the dots and the interesting aspects of this story. So it's all about somewhere else in the universe and so on. So kind of broadening up the horizons and going out there where no one has gone before and so on. So it was really like all these worlds that are created by SF. From the movies, one interesting ones also in the last years, I would say Interstellar, which really was also playing with the relativity perspective. And I would also say Ender's Game is okay, terrible movie, but it did touch some of the topics in the book. So it was to see the visualization, but I also kind of expected more. But I don't know. That would be it at the moment.
From my side, what shaped me is certainly Star Trek: The Next Generation. I think I watched every episode. For now, I'm still waiting to see new Matrix, and of course this new Dune movie. Currently, I'm watching on Netflix Lost in Space. I could not say that it is brilliant, but it's okay. It's fun to watch.
But the movie was also interesting, I would say. So
I didn't saw the movie.
Check it out.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Now we are going to recommendations. So, do you have some recommendation for some book?
Well, definitely I would recommend The Expanse. So if someone didn't read this, check it out. I basically, so also like Orson Scott Card,
Yes.
like The Ender's Game, basically. It was love at first sight. So practically for me, if you get me in the first chapter, then I usually read it within one breath, and I don't stop until I'm finished, and then I cannot see for days afterwards properly. But so I would say Expanse. That's definitely Ender's Game if someone didn't read it yet. Also, I don't know, Dune from the latest stuff. I don't know. I also planned to check out some of the things from Clark that I didn't. So I saw the Space Trilogy and just bought the book with the 3 parts in it. So I'm just looking forward to see that. It has a really cool cover. And from just books. If it's just books, then it's fine. Maybe just a note on The Expanse, why it's kind of interesting from the perspective of innovation, and then so I'm dealing with user experiences lately for years and building, some kind of immersive aspect to that story, and it is bringing in from the series perspective a really lot of cool augmented reality things, which kind of is what also Star Trek did, with the let's say the tricorder and like communications devices and so on. And I think we could potentially even do things that are presented there to some degree, and I think this is where it's going, and it is really interesting to see what these authors and directors and let's say special effects guys can do, and yeah, worth viewing.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 seasons. I know what you're talking about. Yes, concerning my recommendations, okay, let's start with science fiction books. I read in last 6 months Foundation by Isaac Asimov. It was translated to Croatians, the first part, so I read it, and it's of course a recommendation. Also, Three-Body Problem by a Chinese author, Liu Cixin, I think it's pronounced. So both are the classics of the genre, and I'm eager to continue with both series, both for Foundation and also for the Three-Body Problem. So the new books are also available, of course. And what is also interested with both series, that the TV shows are started or to be started. So for Foundation, it's already started. I also had to watch the Foundation TV show, and I'm waiting for a Three-Body Problem to be done and finished. Concerning business books, I have one really big book with more than 1,000 pages. It's the Innovator's Dictionary, and it have more than 500 creativity methods. So it's really a kind of let's say something like a dictionary. It's called a dictionary, and it looks like a dictionary. For you have every creativity method inside, and it's fun to see how many creativity methods are in the world, really. Also, they have a website, and on website you can also search and see all the methods. Also, one book is Biography of Nikola Tesla by Bernard Carlson. Then also biography by Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson, and I have also a biography of Elon Musk by Ashley Vance. So I think these three guys deserved such biographies, and it was fun to read them. Then I read maybe I think a year ago a book about Instagram. It's called No Filter by Sarah Fryer, and there you can see so this path of the company of Instagram, which was a startup and which was sold in a time when they have only 13 employees for billions to Facebook. So it's easy to read, and it's funny to see how this could go on in today's world. Also, one book about Netflix, it's called the No Rules Rules, where one of the directors in Netflix written this book, which is about the culture of reinvention they have in their company. So it's also fun to see how the Netflix reinvent themselves, and the way they have this company culture, let's say. Okay, and
I just forgot, if I can just add,
yes,
because I was really short. I just wanted to mention what I found also a couple years ago that I didn't read before, but it was a book from 2002, Altered Carbon by Richard Morgan, and that was one that was really interesting. Talks about kind of the augmentation also of ourselves in some distant future.
So
and
you found the book after the TV show or before?
I think before. Just before. It was I bought it on some in some street shop somewhere.
Yeah.
I just really interesting, and really also read it in one breath. But from the business perspective, I wanted also to mention Tragic Design. I don't remember. I think Saucier or something. I think something like that. But it was O'Reilly, and it was about some mistakes in designs, and these are some real case studies, what happens and how it affects users and how to amend it, and how some big companies kind of create the first iteration of something, and then it was really bad. With some small alterations, it really created something great, and that now everyone uses. Will not try to spoil it for you. So these ones I like to mention.
Yeah, and we should mention what are we reading currently.
Well, because I'm now also kind of say relaxing this is the time of relaxation. We are on holidays at the moment, vacations. So I'm reading Born to Run by Chris McDougall, because later I'm also doing a lot of running. And in queue I already started, but it's kind of I take some time periods off. The 7th book of the Expanse series, Persepolis Rising. And on my desk I have this space trilogy by Arthur C. Clarke. And believe it or not, because you mentioned the Asimov Foundation, I also didn't read it. So this is on my plate. I would like to read it in order, but I have difficulty finding English versions. Maybe I'll find some PDFs, buy it somewhere online, see it. But I also like actual books, so to have them on my desk. So this is what I'll read.
You mentioned the book about running. So have you read the Murakami book about marathon? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a great book. From my side, I'm currently reading. I also like a bit to read history books. So currently I'm reading To Hell and Back Europe 1950 to 2017 by Ian Kershaw. So this is one of the best historians of this generation. And the book is about how Europe transformed after the Second World War. It's really nice to see what was the changes and how turbulent this time was. Also, the second book I have is also to continue with second book on the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. Yeah. Do we have anything to add? I think it's that we are finished.
I just can't remember the name of this really interesting one. Also, it's an SF book about the plague, actually, but not in itself about the plague. It puts the main protagonist into the plague settings, but it's about kind of people from the future coming back to the past to research past. And I can't remember the author. I can tell you later, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
But there are also. This is a series, so there are. I think the first one was actually the investigation of the bombing of London, and then the main protagonist was there. And then the second one, I think, was coming to the world of the plague, where it would be really difficult to come from the future into that kind of world. And I think, if I remember, I will not spoil it. Yeah, it was really interesting, and it is a really dynamic book. It's kind of also oriented towards history, because it really the author said that she's also a historian or interested in history, but she investigates the period and really the facts for that location where this took place. I think it's also about Britain, somewhere in England, but it was an interesting thing to read. I stopped there. I think I have also the third one, but I'm not sure also. But it's a lot of the books in the queue.
Of course. You mentioned the plague. I read the book The Plague from Albert Camus in the time when these things with COVID happened. So maybe 2 or 2.5 years ago. So it was interesting to see how it was in Oran, so in Algiers, I don't know, 100 years ago, and how we have this situation right now. So yeah, I think we are over. So thank you, Blaž, for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
The
So
past.
yeah, so we could just say cheers to everyone. Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.
More on innovation in IT podcast in next episodes. You can find more information on website 7innovation.net. Also, more information on this topic could be found in the book Developing Innovation, Innovation Management in IT Companies.